I'm Jim Sellis, Senior Vice President of Marketing here at RedSail Technologies, joined today by Nicolette Mathey, who's the CEO of Atrium24. I'm sure you've seen her do some great presentations, even at our Connect conference, right, this past year. And Nicolette's joining me to talk a little bit more about how to really play marketing well in your own zip code. And that's really the theme of what we want to talk about today, Nicolette. So we know that, pharmacies sit within 5 miles of 90% of the Americans out there. We also know Americans really trust their pharmacies and their pharmacists for information. So, that's a hyper-local advantage that no one can match. But yet, are people using it? Maybe comment a little bit about that. What are you seeing pharmacists doing today that maybe they could, maybe do better in the future?
Well, definitely digitally. We all have to keep up digitally. We have to have that presence. We have to have that branding in our pharmacies. You look at all other businesses and it all has to wrap around. You have your physical presence, you have your digital presence, and you have to do both. So I know it seems overwhelming, but pharmacies, most pharmacies, have at least the minimum digital presence, and they're trying to expand more on their physical. But everything's changing so rapidly, too. It can feel overwhelming to kind of stay on top of it.
Yeah. So where do you start? Where do you sort of break it down? Do you look at foot traffic? Do you look at sort of customer loyalty?
Yeah.
What areas do you really focus on when you're trying to maximize this area?
Sure. Well, if you think about it, we kind of back into it with our Atrium24 GPO, where we connect 503B outsourcing facilities to our traditional 503A pharmacies. And these 503Bs, they might have sales reps, or they might have online outreach. They might be fulfillment for telemed. But what they're lacking is that local touch and that local brick and mortar outreach. Now, we have, 18 to 20,000 independent pharmacies across the country that have active patient bases that, online can't touch sometimes, and telemed and all these 503Bs can't touch. So you already have that active patient base. But are you telling them what services and products are available to them through your pharmacy? Or are you just listening? Are you just reactive to what they bring into you? We know it used to be in pharmacy, if you filled 100 prescriptions or more a day, you had a pretty good business, and you didn't have to work for one of the big chains. You could work for yourself, but it's not like that anymore. So now you have to be proactive, and you have to know, what are my profit centers? How do I drive into those profit centers, and how do I grow them? And you can start with the captive patient base that you already have locally.
I love that. And you think about the GLP-1s is a really good example of this, right? The amount of money spent on GLP-1s went up 500% over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so with that, obviously, are a lot of people who are on GLP-1s that really need a lot of other support.
Sure.
Because let's face it, there's no magic pill. Even a GLP-1 might not do the trick unless you've got other things around that relative to counseling and those areas. And that's where a pharmacist can play a wonderful role in their local zip code.
Yep, absolutely. Like, these patients, they feel hopeful for once. It's so hard to tell a diabetic patient, you need to lose 50 pounds, you need to exercise, portion control, carb counting, here's all these medications, and it's like, where do they start? But now with these GLPs, they're seeing a significant difference and impact already. They're losing the weight and they're like, wow, I feel great. I can get off some of these medications, but now I'm depleted in some of my nutrients. I need some supplements, or, what medications can I get off of? What does my lab work look like? All these things that pharmacists can help with. So by just updating your IVR messaging, updating your bag stuffers, updating your end caps, for here's some fiber support for our GLP patients, all these things, because you already have these patients in your pharmacy.
I think you're getting to brand recognition and how you really pull out your brand and what it stands for, right, for your pharmacy. And I think a lot of pharmacists and pharmacies, they overlook that. They don't necessarily think of themselves in a certain light. How would you build a brand around the pharmacy so that the local zip code can sort of rally around it as a resource?
Yeah, for sure. So your brand and your logo and just that being across all platforms is really important. And just for your patients to know what you stand for. So you're approachable, they can come talk to you, you're trustworthy, and you have so many products and services already in your pharmacy. Do your patients know about it? That's the main thing. Do you have an email list? Are you doing social media? How are you letting your patients know?
There has to be a sense of what sort of the vision is around the brand rather than trying to just say, hey, we're a pharmacy and we have great services and all of that. So how do you build a specific brand within a pharmacy? And maybe even further than that, Nicolette, is how do you build a planogram of what your pharmacy looks like inside to really match with what you're trying to communicate externally in your advertising?
Sure. So it's going to be different in every pharmacy and every opportunity. But for example, we have some pharmacies that have specialized in podiatry, and my pharmacy did as well. You might have a certain specialty where there's compounded therapies or there's braces or there's things that you could carry in your store because there's a need. So that's why we also built into the Dottie software. We have a CRM that populates with all your doctors automatically. So all the doctors who have ever sent you business, all the prescribers, it gets auto-loaded into your pharmacy-specific Dottie CRM, and that's where you can log the notes. You know, this doctor wants us to carry this special ointment. This doctor likes us to build a clinic, or you can put all the notes in there. We did a lunch for this clinic, but you can also search by zip code for specialties. So orthopedic, let's say, for example, or podiatry, you can search, show me all the podiatrists in these zip codes, because you might have a great relationship with one and you've customized a lot of therapies for them. You talk about diabetes for their patients who have foot sores and things.
And then you can go market that to other podiatrists, right?
You've already built out the program for one.
Might as well share the love.
So now, who else can I bring this message to? And so if you already have that program, you already have all the branded materials. You already have, you know, the wholesaler relationships where you can bring those specific products in. You've already done all the research on your costs and your pricing. And if you're billing insurance for certain products, you already know all that. So you might as well not do something for 50 different specialties. You won't be very good at it.
That's right. Do a couple things really well rather than doing 10 or 20 things
That's right.
sort of mediocre.
That's right. And then your pharmacy, to your point with the branding, will become known for that. And then people talk. So even prescribers, they tell their friends, and they have networks too. We've also, we were big in ENT, ear, nose, and throat in my pharmacy. And so we partnered with this one doctor who he ended up being the president of the Florida ENT Association. Wow. And so we customized a lot of things for him and a lot of therapies for him, and added on whatever he needed, you know, special deliveries or special packaging, or we made kits with co-branded instructions for him in his clinic. But then he was able to connect us to so many other ENTs because he was so well connected. So I have pharmacy clients that go to trade shows for orthopedic, or they really branch out of not just this pharmacy niche.
That's outside the box thinking, right?
It really is, you know, and you never go in and say, I'm going to open a pharmacy or I'm going to buy a pharmacy and I'm going to specialize in that. You know, you don't get to decide, which is fine. It's the relationships and it's your community telling you what they need. And then you're like, let me figure this out for you. And then once you do, dental is another example. You can just do, there's so many specialties.
And you can still find your passion within all those, because there's, even in any community, I'm sure there's some area that you would say to yourself, I would love doing more of this.
Yeah.
Right, as a pharmacist.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's good for your business too, you know, it's good for the patients, it's good for the prescribers. And then if it's good for the business, let's do more of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are the best local marketing plays? I mean, what makes the most sense in your own zip code? You know, we've already talked about digital. That's sort of table stakes. You got to get local. And so how do you do that best? Is that through gyms or other places like that? Or
yeah, a lot of pharmacies, independent pharmacies do this the best. You know, they sponsor local baseball teams. They sponsor, you know, things at the kids' school. They do health fairs. And that's all great because it just shows the community that you're in the community and that you care. And it helps you to meet more folks that you can collaborate with. So it helps you to meet these referral sources. It helps you to meet the folks that work at the front desk at the GI office, you know, and you have to have those relationships. That way, when you go talk to them, they can tell you about their problems. And that's when you create those specialized programs.
I love the fact that that's sort of like an omni-channel play, but on a local level.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
You're finding, and your creativity can go wild with that. What's the most creative thing you've done locally as a pharmacy owner?
We had The area where we live near Clearwater Beach, there's all different kinds. You could throw a rock and hit 10 different pharmacies. You could hit most of them chains, but all different kinds of specialties. So we had quite a few plastic surgeons in our area, and nobody was calling on the plastic surgeons. So, you know, a lot of specialties are kind of spoiled. They get called on by pharma reps all the time. Dermatology is one of them. It's kind of tough to get in with derm, but plastics, nobody was calling on them. So we went in and asked, you know, what kind of prescriptions do you write for your procedures? We were curious. And we ended up making these surgical kits for pre and post surgery. And we went and researched and ordered in all these special gauzes and wraps and bandages specific to that group of prescribers and the surgeries they were doing. And that's when we first got into the surgical kits. And it was, we could do it cash or we could do it through insurance depending on the patient, but it was a pretty healthy profit margin. We weren't getting rich off of it or anything, but it was a great exposure to us to brand new patients that we had never served before either. And so they had such a great experience with these kits, with all the directions from the prescriber that we would put in there about pre-surgical meds and antibiotics and pain meds and wraps and stool softeners and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
That otherwise, if you get a packet of paper before surgery, you're overwhelmed. Now you have to go to the store and buy all these things. What store are you going to? Do they have what you need? We solved all that with a surgical kit.
You basically allowed the patient journey to become much more efficient than it was prior to that.
Yeah, and it made the prescriber look really good too, because they didn't send the patients or the husband on a goose chase to find all these products. And so we expanded those surgical kits into a lot of other specialties. And that was just a really great way to show value to these prescribers. And then, you know, if you're doing eye drop kits for cataract surgeries or things like that, now you have a steady stream of all of their patients. And a lot of them are new to you.
I love it. It's almost like, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. In this case, curiosity is really the mother of invention, right? You're going out, you're finding out what's happening in your local area, and you're just learning. And as you learn, you come up with more creative ideas to serve the patient better, frankly, and serve that provider.
That's exactly right. I mean, I love going to all the pharmacy trade shows. I save all my badges, and I have for the past 10, 12 years. I have a lot of them. And it's so easy to go on the trade show floor and you see all these shiny new things and you get really excited and you come back to your store and you say, oh, this is all what we're going to do, and your staff sighs. And they say, oh boy, what are we doing now? And just wait till she calms down in a couple days, you know? So you can find some cool things and bring them back into your community that way, and you should. And if you think about it, when you're trying to say, how should we specialize? What should we get into? Ask your community. Ask your patients if they're getting any prescriptions online that you can counsel them on, or ask your prescribers, are you sending any prescriptions to other pharmacies or out of state, or is it something that I could provide? And then start there, because you already have a demand for it.
So be curious.
Yep.
Be persistent.
Yeah.
And then just run. Go with it, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Well, thank you guys for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, Nicolette. Thanks for all the great advice.
Thank you, Jim.
Your local brand is what patients and prescribers remember first. By leaning into your strengths and creating programs that meet community needs, you can set your pharmacy apart. Thanks for being part of this pharmacy marketing series. I'm Jim Sellis, and we'll see you on the next segment.